We got a new segment today which we're calling Big Issues, and today's big issue is sexism in comics. So, if you've been on the internet recently, and if you're a comic book fan, you probably will know of this thing called the Hawkeye Initiative.
The Hawkeye Initiative.
You do know what this is, don't you?
Explain a bit more about the Hawkeye Initiative.
Well, I thought you did. I thought that's why okay, the Hawkeye Initiative...
Explain a bit more about the Hawkeye Initiative.
...is basically when these artists, or anyone really on Tumblr, is taking a pose of a female comic book character.
Oh, the Hawkeye Initiative.
And redrawing it as Hawkeye to illustrate the stupidity of the costumes on women, and B, the poses, the odd poses that they make. And in drawing Hawkeye as those characters, they're trying to highlight the sexism by showing how ridiculous it is.
But was the original inspiration for this not the reverse Avengers poster, where all the men in the Avengers poster were doing the female pose and Black Widow was the only one not?
Yeah, possibly, because going back from that, I mean,
let's just keep going back.
That's the whole point about this, right?
Yeah.
It's gone back. It's gone back a long way. The argument is that women are drawn as porn stars, basically, with very little clothing for no reason at all, and kind of breaking their backs, putting their backs out to stick their arse out, and do you know what I mean? And ridiculous costumes and all this kind of thing. So my question is, you know, what do you think of the Hawkeye Initiative, and do you think this is a real issue today that we should be looking at and addressing?
Well, first off, it's hysterical.
It's very funny.
It is so funny. The speed they get these pictures done in is incredible. My favourite being I can't remember what the cover is, but it's where the girl's whipping her hair out of the water and she's all shiny and stuff, and they do the same with Hawkeye, but his nipples are like really pointy. So funny. Yeah, I mean, I think it does bring up a really interesting point with sexism in comics, but, you know, you need to look at the target audience, which is, I mean, that's the biggest cop-out of all the kind of arguments, but it is the main argument, you know. The target audience is males aged 16 to...
But no, surely we're the target audience? Is that what you want to see in a comic book?
Not particularly, because that's not where... Don't you be giving me that face over there. That's, you know, no, that's not what I want to be seeing in my comic book.
Well, so that can't be the argument, and the argument can't be, well, they're just doing it because that's what the audience wants, because we don't want that, surely.
We don't. But
we're their audience?
Well, we are, yeah, but we're not. It's not just us, Dan. They don't just make comics for us. But you don't walk into the comic shop and they go, "Here you go, Dan, especially for you."
Okay, fine. I'll rephrase the question then. Do you know anyone that's like, "Oh, I need my arse in the comics. I need that sticking right out. I need the skimpy costumes." Like
this guy over here.
No good for them. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't see how that's much of a valid argument.
Well, then you tell me, sir. You tell me. What do you think about this?
I think that a lot of these pictures that they're basing them on are old. They're kind of...
They're very 90s,
products of the
90s,
2000s. Jim Lee,
Rob Liefeld,
that kind of thing.
Proportions.
But, because anyway, we were talking about this, I started flicking through some comics we've been written. Batgirl. When you actually start to look at these poses, you do start to realize, is there any reason that she's standing that way? Is there any reason her back is arched like that? But
why is Spider-Man all contorted when he's swinging through the air, and like the old Todd McFarlane?
But he's not sticking his arse out to the.
Well, yeah, but he's in these obscure positions. I mean,
the other interesting point, I think, kind of moving on from the Hawkeye thing, is that even if you look at something like Hulk.
Yeah.
Whereas he is this hyper-realized thing, but he's a monster.
Yeah.
And then you look at She-Hulk. Why is it that She-Hulk is this model of perfection and the boobs and the art. Why isn't she a monster? Also, why are all the female antagonists, why are all them really beautiful? Think of them all. They're all really attractive. And why are all the male antagonists deformed and Doom and kind of and that sort of thing? So I think,
well, because I mean that whole thing, that's not just exclusive to comic books.
No.
You look at old, film noirs. You always get your femme fatales in there. They have that sex appeal, but at the same time, they're evil and they're backstabbing and all this. And you get films like, oh God, I'm going back now to films like The Maltese Falcon, where you get the femme fatale, but then you get the male antagonist, and he's this big fat guy who looks like the Kingpin.
Is that so much the case? I mean, can you think of any films now where that's the case? I think now, even I can't think off the top of my head any films with female villains in it, but I think it's definitely the case. It's certainly true that women are sexualized in this way. A couple of points of contention.
But so are men. That's what I will say. Because look at Batman. You will never get an issue of Batman where he just looks like a regular guy. No, he's always super muscly, super big, for two reasons. One, you want to be him. And B, any female readers are doing the exact same thing you're doing when you're reading Catwoman.
That is not the case at all. Batman is always covered up.
Get on the big issues now.
Batman is always covered up
with armor that shows all of his abs.
There are no female readers going, oh yeah, look at Batman's abs.
How do you know? You're not a female reader.
They're hyper-realized. Sure, they're both hyper-realized, but with the male characters, it's like, oh, they're athletic, they're strong, they're positive, dominant traits. With the female characters, oh, they're sexual, they're kind of passive,
Passive?
Weak.
Oh, I would completely disagree. Look at the major DC comic books at the moment. Batgirl, Batwoman, Catwoman. In the Marvel universe, you've got Captain Marvel, who's been brought in, was a man. Now they've relaunched her as a woman. You've got Hawkeye in the female Hawkeye in the Hawkeye books is constantly saving Clint Barton.
Okay, well maybe maybe that.
And
forget that.
They're positive female traits.
They're
not sexualized, but what's wrong with women wanting to be sexual? Not wanting to be sexualized, but girls want to look good, just as guys want to look good.
There's a difference between what I'm talking with the men and the being positive traits, and this is not positive. This is not a positive way to look at a woman when she's arching her back out to make sure her arse is shown in the best light possible. Like that is not positive. Like that's not how.
But
we
look
should be looking
at Justice League, Jim Lee's Justice League. You flick through that in all of them. Aquaman's doing his poses, Superman's doing his heroic poses. They are all in these poses showing off their masculine bodies to the fullest. As is Wonder Woman, showing off her body in, a slightly more sexualized way. But again, I don't look at Superman in a sexualized way because that's just not my inclination. Whereas a female reader, I think would.
I think it's completely misguided to say that female readers are looking at these male superheroes in a sexualized way because they're not drawn that way. They're always completely covered up. The times when they're not covered up, Namor, for example, it's because it's completely fits with his character to not be. There are characters, and I read an article about this online. There are characters where it is like Emma Frost. It makes sense for her to be kind of not wear that much clothes. Why does Rogue have a slit in her top there? Why do the zippers on women's costumes not work?
Here's what I'll say. Because I think she's the perfect example of this. Catwoman. Now, Catwoman does spend quite a lot of her book getting changed in and out of her costume. Now, again, you do have to look at who the target audience is for Catwoman. And it's predominantly men. Now, women will read that book, and I think they will get a positive, strong, this is a strong woman who can do it for herself type role from it. And yes, she is half naked half the time. But then you read something like Batman, and if he's not out fighting crime, he's fixing his wounds in the Batcave with his top off and walking around Wayne Manor half naked. It is exactly the same, sir. Exactly the same.
It is not even in the same ballpark. Like, it's like, oh look, he's like a wounded tiger, and it's manly, and it's macho,
sexy for a woman.
God,
how can you not think manly, bullshit. Macho?
No one is reading Batman and going, oh, Bruce Wayne's got his top off. No one is doing that.
You can't say, you can only say that from your perspective. I do not think you're looking into other people's... I don't think you're looking at it through other people's eyes.
I just can't. I absolutely cannot see it. One thing I do want to say, I'm going to start, just to give a counter to this, is that I think a lot of the issue with the costumes, these are all established costumes, like, going back, way back, Wonder Woman always hasn't had pants, and if you change it, people don't like it. Catwoman's always been in the catsuit. If you change it, people don't like it. So I think that is another thing here that just...
But it's the same. You don't change Iron Man's suit, you don't change Batman's suit, you don't change Superman's suit.
Yeah, well, that's... Okay, so we've made no ground here, so why... that's why we're calling... that's why these are big issues. That there's not really a right or wrong answer. So let us know. Continue the discussion down in the comments. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter for the possibility of winning one of this week's comics. And until then, we'll be seeing you.